Lovely welcome to this video about the 24th gene key of the shadow of addiction, the gift level of invention, and the city of silence. And that is a very special one, and I will read as always the extracts from the book and also putting my own experiences with the negative belief systems and how to let go of them. And so let's go straight into this gene key. So I have my ebook here or my Kindle, it's always the best. So the partner of the 24th gene key is the 44th gene key, which is at the highest level city of synergy and the gift of teamwork, and at the lowest interference. This is really important to know because both of that gene keys, they are like opposites and they interact to each other. So they create also a balance to each other. In this gene key, the 24th, it's also the codon ring of life and death, like also in the 27 that we did last time. And so we go right into the shadow is addiction. It's written here, the great genetic glitch. Normally we think about addiction, about our mundane life, a lot about the physical world, a lot about food addictions, maybe putting on too much weight, or the opposite, that we eat too little and we are very skinny. And so there's a lot of addictions that can happen, like we are addicted of playing computer games, what's very common for the younger generations today, addicted of like the social media and the phones, checking it all day. All of this can also be considered as a addiction. However, in this gene key, there are a lot more deeper ways to observe addiction. So I begin with one extract from the shadow here. This is the shadow that keeps the psychology profession in business. And it is the shadow that big advertisement companies take full advantage of. We humans come pre-programmed for addiction, and the main culprit responsible for this is our minds. So it's all about the minds and how we perceive something and how we let ourselves convince of our reality. And that is so important because like over the social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, like the advertisement and especially like the movie industry, like Hollywood, they have such a huge impact on what we consider as nice in our society and not so nice. For example, maybe you have seen this in like the Hollywood movies. A lot of times there is like like all of the time someone feels bad, they get like their whiskey, and when something is super great and there's a party, they drink their red wine, and some like more locally they drink maybe beers. So there's always this aspect of like the aspect of that you kind of like drinking alcohol in society, and it's very healthy and good for you. The same goes for smoking. So this is how this is working with addiction. The way in which you use your brain is determined by your genetics, so that some people think more logically and others more laterally. Let's compare the circuitry of the brain, like the circulation circuitry of the brain, to the 88 keys on a piano. We could say that the piano keys offer almost infinite potential for creating music and melody. However, in the case of our brains, we tend to find tunes that we like and play them over and over again. Many people don't really think for themselves at all, but have learned conditioned patterns from their parents and their environment and keep following those patterns their whole life. Of course, everyone uses their brain all the time, but it is relatively rare for someone to find an entirely new way of thinking. And that is so important, because this is like these negative beliefs that tell you you should stay who you are because this is a safe place, and it's just like these beliefs that make you feel like it's not immediately important to change it now, because you feel slightly good enough to just keep in that, but you don't feel slightly bad enough to change something. So a lot of times in a lot of people's life there has to be some really big like situation and experience happen for them to change their whole worldview and to break out of certain behaviors of addiction. A next one from the book extract: the only thing that breaks addiction thinking is silence, real silence. As we shall see, it is silence that gives birth to the 24 gift of invention, the art of thinking and acting totally in original ways. So, for example, you wake up and you do something that you have never done before. For example, for me, I'm here now in Cyprus, and right outside my balcony here, there is behind the balcony, there is like a small nature, and I have never been in this small nature. This morning I did so because I want to just check what's going on there. So always like expand your consciousness by doing something that you have never done before is a very good sign of being in this invention state, and that you do it or that you initiate to do it, you have to be in the state of that real silence, making pauses that lead to the pivots, what it's called in Gene Keys, and that's leading to the merging. So this is like this art of contemplation, and that is so important because this offers you to break out of the addiction and to go into the invention. Another one: the shadow of addiction ensures that people don't really change. That's what we had already. Even though we may seek new ways of being, we usually end up following our addiction on the outside and never changing on the inside. You only have to look at a person's actions in the world to see whether they are living in a state of addiction or the higher state of invention. Nothing to add to that. Then another one, a small sentence here is very important. Addiction begins in the interaction of three lower bodies, or of these three lower bodies. I didn't went into it in the detail. I recommend you to read the whole chapter, it's really nice. So addiction begins in the interaction of the three lower bodies, meaning the physical body, the astral body, and also the mental body. So in the interaction of those like three layers of bodies, lower bodies, this addiction begins, and they interact with each other. And it all begins in the physical body all the time, and it goes up to the emotions, to the astral body, and to the thinking level and the mental body. Then another one, the question then is how to escape the wheel of addiction and reset the program to run without the glitch, what I told at the beginning. That is the good question. So especially like the art of contemplation is great with the pausing and the pivots and the merging, because like when you pause, the pausing leads automatically to pivots, like that you, while you are addicted, you notice that you that you now initiate or like you act on this addiction. It's like, for example, you eat something or you are in a eating pattern, to keep it simple because most can relate. You are in an eating pattern that you told you don't want to drink coffee anymore, and then after some days you find yourself like at the coffee and you don't even know how you get there. You're like, wait a second, I wanted to not drink coffee anymore, and now there's like the coffee and you made it already, you filled it, and you think like, what's going on? And the moment you realize like that and you think like, this is actually my pattern, that's then the pattern interrupt, and that makes the pivot so crucial, and the pausing, and that leads to the pivot. What's that? And this is how one of the easiest ways to get out of the wheel of addiction into invention. And it's also not only this, like the way that you begin to say, wait, this is my negative belief, or it's like a conditioned pattern that I got into again. You have to be willing to confront the mind that in that phase, that you are able to tell, wait, is a pattern, is a belief system I get into, and you have the free will, and you can choose if you want to drink the coffee and say like, okay, I'm very happy that I found out the pivot, that I fall back into a behavior pattern I wanted to not do for a certain amount of time, and then you can really choose how to do it. So we have like also here, like in all Chinkis, we have a repressive nature, which is the passive one more, the internalized, and this is frozen here. That means it's like addiction plus frozen. So it's an addicted and frozen addicted. Frozen addiction frozen. It's like you freeze, to keep it simple. It's written in the book, this freezing can manifest in many ways. Physically as a complete lack of energy, emotionally as depression, and mentally as a narrow-minded and guarded perception of reality. For example, you find yourself sitting in front of a coffee, but you didn't want to do it, and you think like, wait, how did I get here to drink this coffee now? This is very awkward. And that's how this is working. Then like the next one is like the reactive nature, is also the more aggressive one, and this is anxious. I write it also here. Some words like are not so into my system. Anxious. It's like kind of like this depressed mode where you are depleted of energy also. However, like this is an aggressive version, and what's written in the book. If we react actively instead of passively, we do so out of anxiety. Genau, anxiety. That's how it's pronounced here. In order to escape the feeling of falling into the bottomless pit, we translate our fear into activity. And that activity obscures the potential magic that could have occurred inside us. Essentially, there are two kinds of addicts. There are those who numb themselves, it's more the repressive, the internalized version, and those who stimulate themselves, the reactive nature. And this reactive nature is more like the workaholic or gambling type, as opposed to the repressive nature, which might be more the alcoholic or maybe the movie type that's just sitting in front of the movie. And the point is that these people cannot sit still, and they always have to be on the move. So this is like that reactive side. Now we come to the exciting part, which is the gift of invention. Finally, out of the shadow, and I congratulate you if you're still here. I told it already in another video. It's so important while you start, especially one part of a Chinky, that you finish it to the end, because it means you are actually already on a good level of frequency. You do not let yourself distract by the shadow level of telling you like, wait, you have to stop this video now, or you have to stop reading the chapter because the shadow is finished. This higher stuff, we don't need to check this now, we can check this later. The gifts, and especially the cities, they are so far away. Unbelievable. So we go into this gift now of invention. Resting in the gap. It almost tells everything. Is about already a silence, like to have these pauses in between, and in this, like in those gaps in between, in this void, in this blackness, in this darkness, in this nothingness, all of the magic happens. It's written here in the book, your response to, wait a second, to check shortly what I did here. Okay, I get it. Your response to them, to the gaps, determines whether they become bridges to another level of awareness, or you simply fall back into your familiar ways of thinking and acting. So that's really important, because the way we have the level of awareness makes us like ascend or get to a next level of awareness and consciousness level, or we fall back to the previous one also. And in the case of the 24 gift is written here, the gap in the awareness is fully embraced and therefore reveals its magic. It's also written here, the 24 gift is truly magical and contains the secret of the genius. There is a great example about tennis here, and because I'm also playing tennis here regularly here in Cyprus, I can relate to this perfectly. And it's really like the difference between a good tennis player and the best, like Roger Federer or like Nadal, like these really crazy players. And the difference between a good player, they play in patterns that the other players can recognize. It's always similar patterns how they play. They are really predictable. The best players in the world best players, they play totally unpredictable. They really catch like the other players off guard all the time, and they are really good in playing. And this is invention. This is this magic. What this 24th gift is about. That what I also noticed even at my level of playing tennis, where it's like I'm a hobby player, like I'm just playing for fun. When I'm in this flow mode and in this invention mode, there things like happen how I like hit the ball, and the ball hits at specific rates and so crazy to like the other field that the opponent or like the friend with I'm playing with cannot do anything. So, and whenever I'm in this flow mode and I'm able to unpredictably do like where like the player I'm playing with can do nothing, that's like this magical part of invention. Another one from the book extract: ironically, as your brain becomes more efficient, you may well use less of your brain power than you think, because if you can simplify the amount of neural some words are very hard for German somehow. That's very funny. I have to practice that some. Neural firing, like the firing of the neurons in your brain, then ideas and insights may actually become sharper and clearer. The great joke may well be that the smaller percentage of the brain you use, the more intelligent you become. That means like you are very clear in what thinking arrive and how to yeah, you just don't need as much like brain power, the more invention there arrives also. Because if we go to the Siddhic level of silence, then there is actually the thinking vanishes. That is the magic, the true magic, that you are just in the present, you are in the moment, you just act, you are in the flow. And also it's written in the book, addiction sinks in cycles, whereas invention sinks in spirals. So it's like addiction is always like, it's like you run like a cat and you want to get your own tail all the time and you don't notice you're doing this. And invention is like a spiral up, and slowly you always go to the next stage. And that's really important to know. That's a really cool example. Then what's else written here? All the great insights that have driven human evolution, from the arts to the sciences, have come across the bridge of the 24th gift. Only one who is willing to face their own ignorance can cross this bridge. It begins with your willingness to admit that you do not know and that you may never know. This inner honesty creates the environment for invention to occur, even through when it may occur cannot be predicted. So it's really about breaking negative or limited beliefs that are built up on society as an individual, and build something that has never been built before. That's about it. Now we go to the most exciting one. Most exciting means silence. So it's like written here, exiting the wheel. Ooh, the wheel. Yeah, the matrix, the wheel, whatsoever. For this Siddhi, it's written here in the book that there has to be built in context, because it's really challenging to write even about it. So it has to be in context with addiction and invention in that sense. Silence is the natural background state of all human awareness, and silence can only occur when thinking ceases to exist entirely, or ceases entirely. I told that already before. It's strange because it's not understandable. Yeah. I mean, see it like this. When you sleep, you don't think, right? Or do you remember after sleeping that you had thinking there all the time? It's similar to this, actually. So another extract. Thinking can in fact be masked by certain techniques, but that temporary quietness is not the same as the pure silence of the 24th Siddhi. The silence of the 24th Siddhi is a silence that descends on you. Even though it already lives inside you, it occurs as a result of the shift in the inner geography of human awareness. True silence reigns when the mechanisms controlling, now I have to switch to the next slide here. True silence reigns when the mechanisms controlling, what's going on here? True silence reigns when the mechanisms controlling you see, like they want to, the programs wanted to not only distract me, also you. True silence reigns because it's on the other side, and I'm not able to click the other side now because I marked the whole side, and it's so funny with the Kindles. But distraction is always good, and it's a perfect sign, if you're still here in this video, that you are very far on this journey already, actually. And I'm very, like, I can really give you a lot of gratitude and love and compassion that you are like here in this video and you watched the whole one. Thank you a lot. So let's try it the third or fourth time. True silence reigns when the mechanism controlling, Let's go. Controlling your awareness moves from your head down into your solar plexus. It's also a paradox in a way, and what's also written here in the book is silence negates everything, fusing together both subject and object. For awareness to shift in this way, some kind of physical mutation has to occur within the human body. And it's also written, another extract, you no longer think, but you are sought by life. Like the thoughts of life comes through your life. And this is not something that can be really described. It has to be experienced, and that's, nothing else to add to that. It's also written, one more extract, pure consciousness is silence or emptiness. It is represented temporarily as the time before the beginning of the world. Only true inner silence can bring an end to the Maya or illusion of your separateness. It's also written that this gene key here is related in the for the ancient Chinese sages, like they name this 24 hexagram in the I Ching returning, and this has also reason because it's a lot about karma and incarnation in this sense. And there is something very interesting. I skipped some parts, you should definitely read the chapter. There's some parts that are very contradictive to what a lot of teachers and people tell today about these subjects. So what's written in this book? And that is because of the silence. Like, this is the city of the silence. So you always have to see it in that aspect also. So the extract here. Despite what the teachers may say, the sages, the teachers, like the spiritual, the enlightened ones, most people like the idea of reincarnation because it gives them the sense that there is something about themselves they can hang on after death. It gives us the sense of continuity and justice underlying all creation. From the point of view of the 24th Siddhi, however, reincarnation is simply another human concept born out of the language of the Maya itself. This theme is explored in some depth in the 44th Siddhi, in the programming partner of the 24th Siddhi. Both these siddhis strip the human story down to its purest and simplest form, in which human beings are viewed quite coolly as simple genetic equipment for consciousness to play in. When one piece of equipment dies, it is gone, but it played a part in writing a great transcendent script. Even though the equipment has died, like the physical body, the play must go on, as the saying goes. It's also like when you have the Bruce Lipton tells this a lot. When you have the TV and the programs, you check let's say the TV is the TV get destroyed, or even your laptop, and then you have to buy a new laptop or a new TV to receive like the frequency to receive the internet or the program you want to tap into. And this is exactly how this is also working. Then it's going forward. Therefore, what appears to keep returning to the world of the form actually never leaves. Bodies are born and die, and their specific awareness functioning dies with them, but the overall consciousness beneath continues. It is silent, undying, intangible, and beyond form. Yeah. Those, when you identify with or remember a past life or even a future life, you are simply reading the information within your fractal line. It is contained within your blood, but no aspect of me survives death. Expect the silence of consciousness itself. that is a very big message overall, to contemplate and to think about. And yeah, there are certain level and layers of this, and it's really, really deep. So, and it's also written another extract, the only thing that really incarnates is silence itself. Another one, the key, like to also put it in a bit more practical way, the key is always to relax, to be relaxed, because only as you relax can you find the magic gaps and experience the truth directly, not through your mind, but through your innermost being. Like just relax, and for example, you inhale through your nose, and before you exhale again, there is a gap in between the inhale and exhale, and this gap to go into the step and feel it like gap, and notice that there is something in between also. This is a very simple and easy way to be more in the gaps. This is from Osho. I will show actually his book. He has a book about 113 meditation techniques. I will probably also show some of that. So it's really to observe the gaps and to really pause in the gaps. And that makes you relax more also in your being. Another one, when all the stories have been told, all that will remain will be the silence that was there all along. In those magical gaps between the atoms, the notes, the words and the lives of all human beings. Yeah, as always, Richard Rudd is the poetic guy, and is so lovely. I really love his work. And thank you very much for being here in this transmission, in this contemplation with me together, because it's also a contemplation for me. And so thank you a lot. Thumbs up if you loved the video, and also subscribe the channel should you have not done that yet, and comments below what is your experience with this Jinky, and I'm very happy to look forward to record all of them. And as a last motivation, I wish to say, if you are still here and watch this, then commit yourself like I committed myself to maybe be like here with me every several days to check like the newest weekly Jinkies, because I'm also doing this myself, and because then after all of the 64 weeks or 64 times I make the video, you have checked and you know all of that Jinkies, and that is really great. Thank you very much again, and see you in the next transmission. Your Dominik.